this quickly? Okay.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. So we took some time and fixed my audio settings after our practice session. So yeah. So
Perfect.
yeah, this is just kind of a time that we get ready for our 2 o'clock start. So I was going to ask if any of you, while you are here early, if you had any celebrations going on in your area. It's kind of always nice during the summer to know what's happening around the state. I know Central City, does Central City have a
No,
4th of July
we
celebration?
do have a big 4th of July celebration. We have Lone Tree Days.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on in Central City for the 4th of July.
So if you don't have anything to do, Central City is a good place to head. So wonderful. So
Um,
this weekend is Midsummer Fest here in Holdridge. A Swedish
Swedish
Days
Days to Tradition.
tradition. Yes. And somebody started to share something.
I was going to say in Loop City, we just finished up our Polish Day celebration last week, or the first weekend in June. So I'm
Okay.
finally recovering from that. But then we have a big fireworks show at Sherman Lake on the 5th of July.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think growing up, I maybe went to one Polish Days festival many, many years ago. So,
It was
yeah,
huge. It was huge this year. We
good.
brought back a carnival and Rocket Event Pros out of Kearney. They do like inflatable water park and bungee trampolines and rock climbing and all that stuff. So
Nice.
all that fun stuff and a parade. It was jam-packed weekend and we had great weather, so couldn't complain.
Yes. Good, good. And I see Carla Kimball joined us, a community in her region. I think the Muddy Creek celebration is going on this weekend in Ansley. Yes. So if you're out and about and don't have anything to do, there's another opportunity.
I think that's right, Lori.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll wait just a couple more minutes. I see people are continuing to join us before we get started here. So would love to hear about more rural community celebrations that are coming up here in the next month or two.
Well, yeah,
Lori?
Holdridge usually does their 4th of July fireworks on the 3rd after a
Right.
baseball game. I haven't heard anything this year, but that's when they usually do them. So
Yeah, I haven't heard anything either here. So
let's see, this weekend is Swedish Days. Next weekend, next Saturday night would be Bertrand Days kickoff. And they have a barbecue competition where you pay at the gate and you get to try everybody's food. And then they have a live band. And then that kicks off for the rodeo is Monday, Tuesday. Something goes on Sunday. I'm not sure what, but yeah. So that would be Bertrand Days.
okay, yeah, lots of
Ne
opportunities.
next
Jean?
weekend in McCook, we have what we call Bash on the Bricks, which is Norris Avenue is closed off, and we have a couple of concerts, and there'll be a number of food trucks and merchants downtown. And then we have one of our local auto dealers sponsors a cruise. In other words, cars on Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. You cruise the cruise the streets of McCook with your automobile. And then we also next weekend we have coming to McCook between 300 and 400 bicyclists. It's called the Tour of Nebraska. They will start in Curtis, Nebraska, and go to Elwood, and then down to Holdridge, and then come through Cambridge, and then spend a couple days in McCook, and then go back up to Curtis. So
Wow.
next weekend we have a lot of things going on downtown. A lot of people will be in town next weekend, and then over the 4th of July we have a local organization that will put on a fireworks display at the fairgrounds. We have food trucks, and so the city of McCook used to do the fireworks. We gave it up, and so a local group has taken it on, and so they put on the fireworks show over the 4th of July.
Okay, so lots of good stuff happening in McCook as well. So
That's right.
wonderful. Okay, well, as people continue to join us, I know Zoom makes it possible to slide in, but I do want to get started and give our presenter today all the time needed for what she's about to share with us. So welcome and thank you for joining us on the June of 2025 HomeNE webinar. My name is Lori Ferguson. We have several new people joining us today. So just want to introduce myself to you. I'm a community consultant with the South Central Economic Development District. We cover 13 counties in central and south central Nebraska, and we office in Holdridge. South Central Economic Development District also represents HomeNE. We are the lead agent, and HomeNE is a statewide learning network designed for people from all across Nebraska, as well as the surrounding states. We have a few people from South Dakota joining us today, so welcome to them as well. So what is HomeNE? HomeNE is designed to connect and engage rural community leaders with one another and give them an opportunity to explore innovative approaches to housing development and redevelopment. The long-term goal of HomeNE is to foster the development of local expertise to successfully assess and address the housing needs of our communities. Through today's webinar, the information that will be presented, as well as other educational sessions, we hope to provide you with the knowledge and tools that you need to fill both your organizational and community housing goals. So welcome to all of you. We continue to grow. As I said, we have 20 new registrations today, and that just really excites us. So thank you for being part of today. I know there are many things you could be doing, but you're making this a priority. So thank you so much. So today we are joined by Michelle Cole from Central City. She wears many, many professional hats, as we found out in Central City. And one of the main hats that she wears is she's the manager or coordinator, I don't know her official title, of the city's vacant property registry program. So this is a webinar topic that we have wanted to feature for some time. And I'm so glad that Michelle said yes when I called her a couple months ago. And I'm looking forward to hearing what she shares with us. So Michelle, before you start your presentation, would you give us just a little glimpse into who you are, what the many roles are that you play, and just anything you want to share about yourself?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Michelle Cole. I am like she said, I wear many hats for the city. I am the building and zoning administrator. I do code enforcement. I do the vacant property registry. I am the deputy clerk, and I am HR and payroll. I am also a certified residential or certified general appraiser. And so I know real estate quite well. I have been in Central City for a little over 30 years now, and watched my kids grow up here and just love the community overall. So I started with the city 5 years ago.
Okay, wonderful. So yeah, tell us about your vacant property program.
The vacant property program went into place roughly, you want to give me a new slide there? There we go. Went into place roughly 5 years ago. I had gone to a meeting with Bobby Pettit out of Kearney, and she had brought this up with new legislation and different opportunities that you can do with vacant properties. And so I kind of ran with the idea. I presented it to Chris, and I said, I think this would be kind of useful. What do you think? And he says, yep, go ahead, start it up. So I started writing the registry, did some research. There is a community over by Omaha that was running the program, Nebraska City. And so I kind of touched base with them, found out some of the stuff that they were doing, and just kind of wrote up the registry that we have in place today. I presented that to Chris, and then it went off to our legal counsel to confirm that we had all statutes and everything correct. So we started the vacant property registry. As many of you know, vacant properties in our small communities can become a large problem. These properties, like the one on the screen, tend to become homes for our rats and our mice and our bats and our coons, and bring down neighborhood property values. With communities facing housing shortages, this has become a major problem. So if you want to give me my next slide, Sherry. Yes, it was approved by City Council in March of 2020, so it has been 5 years. And I'll take the next slide again because I already said this. I'm jumping. Since its inception in 2020, I feel like we've made a huge stride. I've written up 37 properties. Of the 37 properties, 8 homes have been removed. The city has actually helped with a few of those. We had some old dilapidated single wide trailers that when the people had their stuff removed that they wanted out of there, we let them pay for the dumpsters, and the city came in and destroyed them and put them in the dumpsters. We have 13 homes that have been renovated and sold and or are rented. We have 4 homes currently in the remodel process. I have 1 house that the owner passed away, and we're just watching to see what family does with it at this point, and 11 properties on the list that are still ongoing in progress. So overall, we've done quite well in getting homes occupied based on the number of houses that we have started with here. The vacant property will only work if you have support from your city council. And you have to have somebody who has some thick skin to take on all the people that are going to come into your office and complain about their house being put on the vacant property registry. And you have to be able to have well-maintained files. So when you go to file liens and you remove liens, and it gets to the point where you have to start the foreclosure process, you have all the documentation you need in order to continue and go on to that process. Determining vacant properties are easy in the beginning because, as you've seen in that first photo, houses like that are quick and easy to pick up. Once you get those done, then you have to do a bit of research. They're a little bit harder to find because some of them can be well maintained and you have no idea that they're vacant. So I've found these homes through many different avenues. Next slide, Sherry. First, it's not uncommon for a property owner that you have just served notice to and told them that their property is going on the vacant property list to say, well, my name's on there. Why isn't so-and-so's name on there? Then that's easy. You can go research it and they can be placed on the vacant property registry as well as if they meet the criteria. Second, the city here in Central City takes care of all of our utilities. We do our own utility billing. So a lot of properties are determined by lack of water usage. These homes can have utilities on, and the property owner is paying for the minimum expenses. But if there's no water usage, there isn't anybody living there. So initially what we'll do is once we find the home, this is the first letter that goes out. It tells them that their property has been determined to be vacant. It tells them what the following fee schedule is going to be, and lets them know that this is going to renew every 6 months. And that the registration fee for being on there will increase every 6 months until the 5th renewal. We stop the increase at $2,500 every 6 months. We start at $250, go to $500, $1,000, $2,000, and so on, every 6 months. This is a supplemental document that's included with the initial registry. The number of these forms that I've actually had returned is probably 3 out of the 37. It doesn't matter to me whether they return these forms or not. Because it's going to be put on there unless they can prove that there's somebody living there. What we do with our vacant property registry is once that initial letter is sent out, it will go to the council meeting at the next meeting. The only way for this program to work is if you have council support. If your council will not back this program, then it's not even worth starting it. Because they have to have the backbone when the people come in and say, this isn't fair, this is government overstep. Why is my property on here, but I'm maintaining it? They have to be strong enough to say, nope, you're staying on the vacant property registry until somebody lives there. If they won't do that, this won't work. Once the property is on the vacant property, it stays on the registry, even if the property is sold. So if I have a house and I decide to sell that house to Miles, and Miles buys the house, any liens that are on the property that we've placed for the vacant property registry have to be paid prior to the sale. And then it stays. So if the property was currently at $2,500 every 6 months, the new owner is going to be fined $2,500 every 6 months. We try to do this to eliminate sales back and forth between family members, thinking that they're going to get a start all over again. And it takes a lot of communication with realtors and new buyers to let them know what the process is. We have had several properties that have been sold to flippers who renovate the properties and either rent or sell them. When that has happened, it still stays on the vacant property registry. What I have developed next is a form that I present to the new property owner that they can fill out, and they can say, this is what my plan is, and this is when I plan to have it occupied. What our city council has determined to do is, if that person is renovating that house, and if they are actively working on renovating it, the council can take up to 2 months of liens that we have assessed to the property off. So as long as that new purchaser has that property renovated and occupied within a year, the fees can be waived. So you have to explain that very well. Because you don't want one of those flippers that's going to get the property and hold it for 6 months and think that because they're renovating it, it no longer stays on the list, because it does. And according to state statutes, the most that we can take off is the 2 months. Next slide, Sherry. We have initiated foreclosure on a few of the properties that were placed on the registry. When this happened, we had several people come in and pay off the special assessments. We had one property where the bank came in and paid off of our lien on it. We had one where the property owner decided to get an attorney and fight the foreclosure on the property. What was discovered during that process is we weren't sending the letters out as we had indicated in our registry. We had sent the very first letter out, certified mail, return receipt requested, and then we stopped. And given the lack that we didn't continue to do that, there was grounds that they could get out of it. So what we did was we stopped the foreclosure on that property, and we started all over from square one on the same property, assessing the same liens. And so once we get up to about the $2,500 range, usually when we get about 2 or 3 of those on there, then the council will authorize us to try to start foreclosure on it. So this one is back in the process because we didn't follow through correctly with the certified return receipts. So all letters you send out, need to be sent out certified mail according to our registry, and we have to have a return receipt requested. Therefore, we've got evidence of whether they picked the letter up or whether they decided not to go to their mailbox and pick the letter up. As you can see, this is the very first property that was on the very first slide. This home was removed, and we have a new home in the process that is being built. This home is actually a rural workforce housing home that they're receiving funds on to redo this. So the property owner has worked with South Central Economic Development and the city of Central City with the rural workforce housing to put a brand new house on that lot. This property, they decided it's in the process of renovation, and they've decided just to redo what was there. It was determined that the structure and the foundation of the property was in good condition. And so they have purchased this property. And when they purchased this is a very long, large lot. And they are going to end up subdividing this lot into roughly 2 or 3 more lots, depending on how big they decide to make them. And there will be an additional 2 or 3 homes built on this property. Like I said in the beginning, I've been in Central City for roughly 35 years. This house had never been occupied since I've been in Central City until this year. And it was occupied here in May. So it's the first time it's been occupied. The property owner redid it. As you can see, there's a new roof. I was actually in this house prior to all the renovations being complete to see what he was doing and how it was going. And he was doing good work. He was just very slow about doing that work. This one is hard to believe that this is the same house. This is one of the gentlemen that we've been working with that purchased this house and added on. He added on this 3-car attached garage. There will be a master bedroom suite above the garage. And this is going to be a really nice house once it's completed. He's worked with me throughout this process, and I've gone through and helped him come up with the ending design that he's got going on here. He also put a large addition on the back of the house because this was a small house. Joshua works on this house by himself, and he has a partner that helps with the funding and the managing of materials. And then he brings in high school kids to help teach them a trade to learn construction. So it's kind of a cool situation he's got going there. This property surprised me because on the side of this house, you could basically look down and see foundation, and see through the foundation. So I was very surprised when they were able to fix this. What turned out happening was it was just missing a brick or two in the one position, and the rest of the foundation was stable. So a flipper bought this. They had this house done, renovated, and occupied within 6 months of purchasing it. Is that the last one, Sherry? Yeah. So overall, I think the registry is working really well. It coincides very well with our code enforcement. I think the code enforcement was a great way to get it started because the community had already known that the city was going to start enforcing ordinances, and they were going to make you clean up your properties. And so when the vacant property registry was started, it just kind of went hand in hand together with the two of them. But I've had great council support with both programs, and I think that's essential. So does anybody have any wonderful questions for me? Because I just threw a lot of information at you.
We have a couple questions in the chat box, but just to tag along with something you just said, the public knew you were doing code enforcement. Was there any um, public meetings about the start of the vacant property registry, or was that
No, there
conveyed
were
just
public
through?
meetings because they had to go through city council. The ordinance did to be approved. So, and they
Okay,
had to go to, we did an initial one. I think we came back with a couple different revisions, and then it was, they waived the third and final reading and approved it at the second meeting. So there has to be
okay,
public hearings on it. We did not have anybody from the community that showed up to the meetings, to have anything to say about it. Those meetings were, publicly advertised. So everybody was aware that
okay,
they were going to be happening. Uh,
okay, okay. Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead if you had a thought.
I'm looking here at the
Okay.
chat box here, and first question I've got here is, what does the city do when the liens are paid? We have started a separate fund that all the funds are put in there, and it is basically used for my cleanup projects. So when we're going in to take down the mobile homes, the cost that we incur is basically our labor cost for those projects. But then we just have set it aside and are keeping it for tearing down the properties, the larger properties that we're going to have to tear down, and go from there.
Okay. And then Miles asked you for a clarification. I think you mentioned a 2-month waiver for somebody who's maybe flipping a property, and he
Yeah,
just wanted you to clarify that.
it is 2 assessments. So it's 1 year's worth that we
Okay.
can remove because they're placed on every 6 months. So basically they have 1 year if they're buying it to redo it to get it done. The
And
one
is that
property where they were put that 3-car garage on, we went in and waived one of those fees because there was a delay in materials and weather. So we went in and removed one of those fees because he was actually working on it. I had let me go in during the process, see where he was at. I could prove to the council that he was actually working on it. So they went ahead and waived one of the fees so that in the end, when it's done, he should be able to remove the last 2 and have no fees charged to him.
okay? And are the fees, just to expand on that, are the fees set in state statute, or did Central City establish those?
Central City, I believe, established those. They were how I had started them, so I don't know if I was lucky and just hit state statute or if there is a statute for those. I wasn't involved on the legal side. Chris Anderson, our city administrator, handled all that part.
Okay. Okay, good. And Megan asks when you started the foreclosure process, and did you have a specific time limit or amount of unpaid fines that maybe triggered that process?
We waited until there was roughly $10,000 or $15,000 against the property. Several of the properties had additional liens placed against them other than just the vacant property. When we have to go in and mow, they'd have liens for those. When we have to go in and clean up one property in particular, we have done all of that. We have gone in and mowed several times. We've gone in and done code enforcement, and it is on the vacant property registry. That property is getting very close to where the city will probably, council will determine to start foreclosure on it again. So we typically wait till we're in that $10,000-15,000 range based on the value of the house. We start at one at 8,000. But the city council determines when we do that. We present to them and let them know where the liens are at. And then they make the determination for us to start foreclosure against the property.
Okay, okay. The chat box is lighting up, so that's great.
Yeah.
So Hannah asked the question about who started it. I know you mentioned early on that you had heard about it, brought it back to Central City, but she has been informed or heard somehow that it would have to go through the Planning and Zoning Board first. Can you address
It
that?
does have to go through the planning and planning commission, prior to city council. I also run the planning commission meetings, so I'd take them through there. The very next week is our city council, and then it would go to city council. So it had to be approved by planning commission or recommended for approval by our planning commission to go to city council. The city council has final say. So if planning commission said no, city council could still go ahead and pass it.
Okay, because it's just a recommendation from the planning commission,
It is
correct?
just a recommendation, yes.
Okay, okay, good. And then Amanda wants to know about how
The
much
workload.
time, yes, how much time do you
How much
invest in this?
I would say I spend at least 8 hours a month working on the vacant property registry. I have files. This is my next stack. I stack them. I have 2 files here. I post on the front of it when it has to go to council in 6 months. So I just rotate the files, so I make sure that every property is being presented every 6 months like it's supposed to be. But then I have to write the letters. They all have to go out every 6 months. I have to take pictures. I have to check utilities to make sure that something hasn't happened in the time frame that I'm not aware of, that it's still vacant. So it does take time to do it. The police department will deliver letters if you want them to, and you can use their certification. We've chose to just do the certified letters, return receipt requested on them. So it's just a little bit of time writing all that stuff up.
Okay, you probably have great filing system
You do.
checklist.
You have to do a system that works for you. And this is the way I found the system to work best for me, is just to keep all the files that are to go whatever month it is clipped together and just go through them every month. I'm in the process now of working to add more to them, and so that then you just add more to your pile to make sure you don't miss anything.
Okay, okay,
It's not difficult, but it is a process.
okay. So, how many did you say you have currently active right now? Do you remember?
I have currently active 11.
11, roughly 8 hours a month for about 11 properties
Yeah.
is a good view of that. Okay. So Jeff brings up a great question too. You know, everybody's looking for an angle here. Does having a property listed with a realtor remove it from your vacant list?
It depends.
Okay.
If the property is listed at current market value or a reasonable price, then it can take it off. We have one right now that was remodeled. It took them a while to remodel it, and they listed it for sale. They listed it with a realtor. Council chose to not put the fine on because it appeared that it was listed at market value, and to watch it for 3 months and see what happens. So I know that the for sale sign is gone. I know that it's no longer listed on the MLS. Being an appraiser, I have access to information that a lot of people don't. And I haven't checked to see if it's been rented, but I know it hasn't sold. So we just have to watch them.
Okay.
If they
Just
list that property for $600,000 and you don't have a house in your community that's sold for $600,000, you know that it isn't going to sell for that, and then it just stays on the registry.
okay. So just to follow up on that, in Nebraska, you don't have to sell only through a realtor. You can FSBO.
Yep.
Is that an exception, or is that something that
That will
a
be,
property
yeah.
owner can do?
Yes, if it's listed and if it's not just a sign in the yard, if they put it on Zillow or advertise it on Facebook or somewhere that I can find it at, and it's listed at a reasonable price, that can waive it for a little bit, but it's one that's we're not going to leave on there for 6 months or 8 months, because the market in Central City doesn't represent a house should stay on the market for that long, which means it's listed for too much.
Okay, okay, good. Just a clarification from Megan, did you say that the city council approves the properties that are added to the registry, and do you present every month on the status of the registry?
I do. The city council does approve them. I write them up, they go to the property owner, and then it goes to city council. The property owner has a chance at that time to come in, and say why the property shouldn't be on the vacant property list, what it is that they're doing to it. Argue this way, that way, and the other way, which is why I say you have to have a strong council. Because they've got to be the ones that still continue to say, sorry, it's staying on there. But I do present every month, whichever ones are renewing. They approve every single renewal of the vacant property, so it's not all on one person. I send the letters out, they do the approvals.
Okay, okay, good, thank you. Lucas did some research and he put a link to the legislature that shows how the maximum amounts have been determined through the Vacant Property Registration Act.
And
So,
those are the amounts that we have set, so.
okay, so perfect. So thank you, Lucas. So, and Amanda followed up too that they use the fees to fund the whole program in Falls City. So,
Mhm.
and that's also code enforcement. So yeah, Miles also added items from the Property Registration Act in the chat box. So what other questions do you have for Michelle as you ponder and are processing the Vacant Property Registration Act in Central City? Could this work in your community? I'd be interested. Oh, Sharon asked if
Do
you
not
consider.
do anything on commercial properties.
Okay,
That was something that we decided, as a community, with the council, because we do have several commercial buildings that are currently unoccupied. But we also don't want to, not have new businesses want to come to town. So we have opted not to do anything with the commercial properties. I do
okay,
believe Nebraska City does.
okay,
So if that's something you want to work on, Nebraska City would be a good place to talk to about the commercial side of it.
okay. What other questions for Michelle?
Michelle, if a community has this, what should they expect at council meetings from someone whose house goes on registry? Should they be prepared for the worst or the best?
You're going to need to be prepared for the worst, because they're going to, some people are very civil about it, and just want to ask questions and want to know why and want to know what they have to do to get it off the registry, and that they'll work with you very well. Other people are going to come in very angry, state that there's government overstep, that they're working on the property, and they consider, this was the one we heard the last month here, they own several properties and they are at each property every day. And because they're at each property every day, they consider them their residents. The property in question has no water to it. They just got sewer to it. So it's one that they're renovating for retirement, basically, but they're not in a hurry to do it. This city council did stand and they did put another assessment on it. Several homes
Yeah,
use storage.
right. Have you had that experience?
Yes. The slide with the greenhouse where I said that the foundation I thought was not good on it, that they redid it and had it rented in 6 months. That property was actually being used as storage. That gentleman was very unkind, to the council and, didn't think that he should be on the registry, because he used it for storage. However, he did end up selling it. The city had actually offered to buy it from him because it's on a very small lot. and to pay for a storage unit for him for a year, or I don't remember the time frame, and he wouldn't sell it. So what I have done is I do have a list of flippers who call me on a regular basis, and these are the homes that I will give them that are on the registry to call and see, and I'll give them phone numbers for the property owners to see if they want to sell them, and that's how I've gotten several of them actually sold and renovated.
Okay. Okay. Do you have a watch list of homes that you're kind of
I do.
anticipating coming available? Carla's asking.
Yeah, I do. I actually, one of them that's on there right now, was a foreclosure that I have on the watch list. It was a foreclosure. We were in a settlement with her. Property was still vacant. And she passed away. So when she passed away during this settlement time, the council waived all of the fees that they could waive, agreed to the settlement, and we were done. It is a property that I am still watching. I know that her granddaughter owns the property now, and I know that it is still vacant, and I know that the property owner's primary house is vacant. So I do watch them. I have to know that they've been vacant for 6 months before I can put them on the registry. That's part of our ordinance. So that you have to know that it's been vacant for 6 months before you can do anything. In this case, I'll probably give it a full year before and I'll probably talk to Chris before I start anything back with either of the properties. Just because you want to have a kind heart and not add additional stress to people who are going through a loss. So we'll give that one a little bit of grace.
So Michelle, I have a question. If you have a house that you know to be vacant, like the granddaughter, but
Mhm.
maybe she's not aware of the program, do you send them an educational piece or something and say, hey, we know this is vacant, but you have 6 months and then we're going to have to start you in the program? I mean, or do you just, that first letter is the first time they learn about it?
First letter is the first time they learn about it. The granddaughters, well, it would actually be the property owner's daughter, has health conditions. She's quite aware of the program because she has come to several of the meetings. I've actually had conversations with her as to the status of the properties. She has volunteered the information. So that is a case. That's the only case that I currently ran into so far where something like this has happened. So I'm just kind of working with her. She's giving me information that she doesn't have to give me, but she's actually working with me and telling me what their plans are for the properties. So.
Okay. Do you treat homes that maybe the occupant has gone to assisted living or a nursing home? How do you treat those properties?
We have not done anything with those as of yet. Like I said, I have to have proof that they've been vacant for 6 months. So if the family chooses to keep utilities on, and continue to pay the utility bills, some of those houses are hard to find. So typically by the time I find out about them, they've been vacant for long enough that, yeah, then we'll have to go ahead and do something about it. I haven't had one, that I knew that the owner was in assisted living or a nursing home when I started it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. What other questions? Any thoughts, any comments that you want to share with Michelle or the others today?
Michelle, it sounds to me like a lot of these that you've handled were chronic vacancies. These weren't ones that somebody lived there for 40 years and just passed away.
No, but I've had some that have been vacant for 40 years, and they've just been paying utilities on it.
That's what I'm saying. They aren't new. It's not like somebody just died and now we're pouncing on it. These
No.
have been vacant, chronically vacant.
Chronically vacant.
Yeah,
Yes, I haven't done anything that short term yet, Sharon.
I feel like some people are afraid of this because they're like, oh, they're just going to go after. And I'm like, we were talking about we'll be implementing this as a service for our communities. And there was some question about, do we need to look every month? And I said, we're not really worried about the ones that just came vacant last month and now we're counting 6 months because we'll have so many to deal with that it's been at least one decade, if not multiple. Is
Yeah.
that what you have experienced with this?
That is what I've experienced with this. The houses that I have had on have been vacant for a long time. They're not just something that has been somebody died and I'm gonna go put it on there right away. One, I've been through that situation and I ain't doing that to anybody. I'm gonna give them some time and some leniency to as a family to figure out what it is that they need to do with it. If 2-3 years later it's still sitting vacant, then we have an issue.
Okay. I
Nice.
think I heard, wasn't this the example that somebody gave, like going into a restaurant, just occupying a table and not ordering anything and just taking up space? And these vacant, dilapidated structures or chronically vacant, as Sharon said, they're just sitting on lots that could be redeveloped and, or, the homes could be renovated and add to the housing stock, but instead they're just occupying space and not contributing to the growth of the community.
Yeah, I've been impressed with the properties that people have chosen to redo, and how well that they have redone them. They're not just slapping them together, for lack of a better word. They're actually doing a good job in getting stuff done, and helping the betterment of the community.
Not that you need anything else to do, but do you track I don't know, return on investment isn't it, but the homes that have flipped or renovated, are you keeping any kind of record of the improvements being made and what that's contributing to the community?
My appraiser hat does.
Okay.
I do track that. I don't necessarily track it for the city, but it is something that I track personally just to see, because once these properties are improved, you're not just removing a building that's dilapidated and falling apart, but you're also adding to the tax roll, and you're adding to the school system, and you're adding to all of the economics within the community. So it's interesting for me to track just to see what the community gains when just one house has been redone.
Okay. And just off the top of your head, what have you found? Won't hold you to anything, but
You're not
what
holding
have
me
you-
to anything?
No.
I've seen $20,000 in upward, in return on investment, basically, just off of my personal cost estimates I've done to what they've had to do to it, to what they end up selling it, for that you're going to be in that range.
Okay. Carla just asked something I was thinking of asking you. What is one thing you learned that you would not have expected going into this?
That's a good question. I think I have learned the grace of some people, and the stubbornness of others. Some of it is a lot harder than I thought it would be, because I thought some people would just be happy to have somebody come in and say, let us help you take care of that. Because I have gone 6 ways to Sunday on a couple different properties to try to help them get rid of the property that's there because it's of no use to them. It's just falling down. And you get into the program 2 years and you're at that range where now the liens against the house are actually worth more than the house are. If you figure the property is worth lot value minus cost of destruction, you're in a negative area. But you can get them so far on it, and then a light bulb will come on in their head, and it's like, all I have to do is remove the property and I'm done. Yeah, that's it. All we have to do is take it down. I'll help you take it down, but all you have to do is take it down and you're good. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. It's just the time frame that it takes to get that message across, and the fact there is help there.
Okay. So there was a lot of interest in your webinar today, Michelle. for obvious reasons. Many communities have joined us, even new communities have not participated. Somebody here taking furious notes, what is one piece of advice you would give to a community or an organization who's looking to start this project or this process?
Call me and I'll help you.
Okay.
I don't have a problem. I've shared information with several communities already. I've actually given them everything that I already use with the city. I am currently helping another city actually set it up from ground on up because they didn't even know that it was a possibility. And they have several of the houses that need to come down. So, I'm more than willing to help anybody. I'm more than willing to answer any questions that I can answer or point you in the right direction. But you have to have the support of the council. If you don't have the support of the council, it's not going to work. You have to be consistent. You have to follow through. If you say you're doing this, you have to do it, and you can't just willy-nilly it, for lack of a better word.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, Miles, can I say something on top of that? And Michelle's done a fantastic job of all this and keeping it. But I will piggyback on the council, unless you have buy-in or to not even get the program running. But when that person's in the council room yelling, we have 6 council members who will stand up and say, we're all in a housing shortage, and this is a home. And it's not necessarily, sometimes it's because it looks bad, but sometimes we need, we have families that are looking for homes. And once the council all buys in on and is able to explain that along with cleaning up the neighborhoods, the people begin to settle down. And I think what I've seen, and it makes a big difference. Not just, we know you're using your house for storage, but there's a family that can't move to town or a job that can't be filled because you won't allow that house. And I think that's part of the council buy-in to buy that part.
Yeah, to cast the bigger vision to the community members. Great. Couple more questions. Michelle popped in. What's the most effective way to educate or communicate with your community and city council on VPR? And Miles kind of alluded to that, making sure the council understands why this is necessary and then conveying that to the public. But what was the most effective way you used?
It's basically a lot of communication. When a property goes for sale that's on the vacant property, it takes a lot of education to the realtor and to the new property owner. I want to make sure that they know what they're getting into prior to getting into it. So it's a lot of communication with community members, new property buyers, new flippers. My city council has been amazing through this whole process because they went in on it full force, and they have stood their ground. Because of that, I think we've also had a lot of the results that we do have is because I have the support that's needed.
Okay. And then you mentioned that one item you used as proof was maybe no water usage in the property. Are there other means of
That's typically
Sure,
the
yeah.
one the one that we use is either no utilities at all, utilities and minimum usage, or utilities and no water. If a house has no water, you can't be living there. We've had some that have water, but they don't have sewer hookups. There's just different things that you have to look for. And the only way I know how to do that is if the city actually manages their own utilities. If you don't manage your own utilities, it may be difficult to get that information.
Okay, good. Megan echoed what you and Miles were saying, the consistency, following through is key to the success of the project, I feel. So, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it is.
Yeah.
Michelle, I have a question for you. I think here locally, we have 2 properties that are on the current VPR, and the man doesn't care. He just pays the fees because he has enough money to pay the fees, and he's not going to let anybody move into those 2 properties, and he's not doing anything with them. What would be your next step there?
Oh, wow. He's paying the liens as you're putting
Oh,
them.
he has enough money to pay whatever he wants.
You're kind of stuck in a conundrum. Because unless you get the liens on the property, you don't have grounds for foreclosure. Um, the only thing I would suggest is education and communication with them. And I've got 2 of those properties right now that are on my vacant property registry. Those are the 2 we started over with notices. She's stubborn and she's gonna fight this through and through, but she hasn't paid any of the liens. So we have the grounds there. With him paying the liens, you're kind of stuck unless you can convince him that something needs to happen. I've actually had better luck when I get my flippers involved that I know that are doing it and have them call and see, because he might do something for somebody else before he's going to do something for the city, because it's his property. He can do with it whatever he wants to.
Right.
So if you
Right.
can get somebody other than a representative from the city to talk to him about purchasing it, or hey, I'd like to do this, that would be my one thought.
Well, and I don't know for certain that that is the situation, but I know the man, I know the properties, I know what his financial status is, and I'm assuming that's how he's staying with where he's at.
Well, and that's what surprises me with my 2 properties is my understanding is she's not from town, but she owns rentals all over the state. She's got rentals in Texas and everywhere else. I think there's enough money for her to pay the liens. Why she is keeping these properties and keeping them empty is beyond me. But she's letting us put the liens on, so we'll start over and have a good fight here in a year or 2.
Okay, well, we are beginning to wrap up. Any last questions? Comments? Well, if not, I want to thank Michelle for taking the time and joining us today and presenting on the BPR. Huge project or something for somebody to tackle, but she is a wonderful resource. And so thanks, Michelle, for taking time.
Of course.
Also, today's webinar will be posted on our HomeNE.us page probably tomorrow. So if you want to check it out again, you can also check out past webinars. And then just to let you know that July 17th is our next webinar, and Chad Nabity from Grand Island and Hall County will be joining us to speak on a variety of housing related and just development issues. So looking forward to having Chad. He's always a great resource. So one last thought, Michelle, anything you want to share?
It's been my pleasure to present this to everybody. It's kind of my part of my heart here, because I've worked hard for it. So it's my pleasure to present this information and to do whatever I can to help anybody else who's in the same situation.
Would you mind just reiterating your preferred method of communication? Oh, okay. Sherry just put it up on the screen. If you didn't catch that earlier,
Yes, the
feel free
office
to
number.
take down her.
You can
We've
call
got it
me
on
at-
the screen now. Yeah.
Yep, you can call me at the office. I'm only in the Central City office on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is why my cell phone is there. I work from home on Thursday, Fridays. So anytime anybody has a question and I am not in the office, call my cell phone because I'll get a call back to you.
Okay. So with that, any last thoughts from anyone? I see lots of great comments about your presentation, Michelle, entering our chat box. So thank you again. And with that, have a great rest of your afternoon, everybody, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Michelle.